Welcome everyone to this Venus Alchemy presentation on the Libra evening star, as she has technically risen into the evening sky tonight, if you're in the nighttime of the part of the world. The sun's still out here where I am, so wouldn't be seeing her yet. But very exciting, and the thing about evening star Venus is she's not as easy to spot when she gets to be 10 degrees from the sun as when she's a morning star. So it still may be a little while before people actually see her. And that's okay, but we're just really celebrating her moving into the evening sky right now. So we thought we would start by opening some sacred space, doing an invocation to the Libra meta goddess, actually the Sorceress, relational goddess. So if you would like to just allow yourself to become present, breathe into your belly, maybe put your hand over your heart, whatever it is that helps bring you present into this moment as we call in this energy for this session. Oh, radiant and shining sorceress of love and magic, guide us to source vibrant, harmonious relationships. Inspired by your brilliant, uplifting love light, guide us in understanding who we really are through our interaction with others. Help us to discover the gifts of experiencing happy, healthy, co-creative relationships. Help us to know and personally experience the wonder of cooperation and collaboration, magically crafting a loving, joy-filled, harmonious world. Bless us with your guidance and wisdom in transforming any remaining limiting beliefs around the challenges of hierarchical relating. So even when we're in roles of either teaching or being taught, of guiding or being guided, of helping or being helped, of initiating or being initiated, of inspiring or being inspired, we know our value is never more or less than anyone else. Help us to see that every relationship we encounter, no matter how brief or challenging or wonderful, is a mirror reflecting what is within us. Help us to know and experience the magic of seeing who we are through the eyes of another, so that we live in relational peace and balance from the inside out. It is done. It is so. We give thanks. Blessed be.
Thank you, Cayelin. What I was feeling in that moment as you were doing that was how many years through shamanic astrology you've been steeped in that inquiry and that conversation about what Libra is actually about. What is Libra about? And also the other thing that I felt in that is the poignancy of the absence, in some sense, of what we're talking about, and that's it's just the contrast that makes us long for that even more, and the power of that longing. So for those of you who have not done this Venus work with us before, we just wanted to give just a very brief understanding of what it is we're talking about, which is that Cayelin and I founded Venus Alchemy in 2014 with the intent to take people through the Venus cycle, which is about a 19-month, it's a 584-day cycle as we work with it, and to take it to people through that cycle in real time. So, and to use the story of the Sumerian goddess Inanna and her descent into the underworld and her death and rebirth in the underworld, to use that as the framework to go through this initiatory process. And literally the Venus cycle is described, the mechanics, the technology, the workings of the Venus cycle are described literally by that story about Inanna and her descent into the underworld. And so, and I just wanted to just say, because I'm blown away by this every time, that the Inanna descent story is like the seed story of our modern culture. It is actually, it dates before Gilgamesh, which they always say is the first saga or the first written account, and that we have a written history of. It dates back to, this culture, and her story dates back to about 5,000 years. And so we are reenacting this story and using it as a guide for us personally and also collectively to support us in this time that I've been really, we've been like seeing and feeling as we're hospicing the death of this old age, and we're giving birth, we're midwifing the new age. And so this story kind of gives us a powerful, beautiful framework of how to do that in a 19-month cycle, and learn to die and be reborn in a conscious way. So maybe that wasn't as short as I wanted it to be, but
but needed, necessary, great, awesome, right? And so just a couple of points about why this particular Venus cycle is special and really remarkable, because it is the first time in 155 years that we have had the Libra metagoddess on the world stage. So this cycle marks the beginning of like about 104 years, where every 8 years, the Libra metagoddess will be the primary archetype of the feminine that is going through the initiation of death and rebirth, the descent, the dying in the underworld, the ascent out of the underworld, and we're moving into that ascent time for the first time now. The other thing that's really remarkable about this and researching and going back was to find that the USA was birthed, consider the birth chart is considered to be July 4th, 1776. And that happened to be when Libra was with the sun, within 10 degrees of the sun. And also when Venus was with the sun in Cancer, but it was the Libra metagoddess on the world stage at that time. So it feels very significant as we are moving towards 2020, and we're going to be really exploring more and more of that as we go through the cycle, looking at the cycle in the classes that we'll be doing starting next week, I think. Anyway. Yeah.
So, and I just want to briefly say, for again anybody who's not really familiar with this, that when we say it's a Libra cycle, we talk about the Libra metagoddess. What we're referring to is that at the beginning of the cycle, Venus rises as morning star. And in this cycle, that began around Samhain, or November 1st of last year. And so whatever sign Venus rises in, she's going to spend far more time in that sign. And that, you could say, is the overtone or the metagoddess, or the expression of the divine feminine that is on the world stage going through this death rebirth process. And with the Libra cycle, it might be more subtle to understand and see it. But one of the ways to understand it really clearly is to think about the last cycle, which was the Aries cycle, the warrior woman cycle, which gave birth to things like the Wonder Woman movie, the Me Too movement, and this really fierce feminine activation. Now she's still, in a sense, she's still alive and present in us because she was birthed at that time. But now we're working with the relational goddess. So that's everything we're speaking to, is to invoke her and to speak to these deeper currents that are happening in the collective and for us personally.
Beautiful. Yes, and so because this is the first Libra cycle in 155 years, the one that happened prior from 2010 to 2012 was the Scorpio cycle. So anyone who's in a 8-year, I'm one of those people. So turning a multiple of 8 between November 1st of 2018 and June 9th of 2020, you are in a personal Venus return. So 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, 64, 72, 80, 88, 96, and 104.
You're so good at that.
I can count by 8s. Anyway, would have probably been born with you would have been born with the Scorpio metagoddess, and now she's shifting to Libra. So we are seeing there's like a threshold or a crossing, like a bridging of these two that's happening now. And so we thought that it might be interesting to look at relational goddesses who are also part of the Scorpio sorceress, sourcing something new, that because the Scorpio piece is really also strong with this particular cycle. It's not, there's that bridge piece, like there's the handing off that's happening. So the one that came up for me was Hekate, and how she is a dark goddess, very much a Scorpio expression. And her job is really to guide people to and from the underworld. But she's also very relational. And this was kind of a little bit of a surprise to me to find that out. So she is literally found in the between, and it's in the between where alchemy happens, between an ending and beginning, between different things. So it's that between place that is where high magic can happen. So she's also the goddess of the crossroads, and helps people to figure out, you know, where they're going from their ending and their beginning, like what's the next path to take. And so she's a guide for that. And she literally can be found in the underworld through the death and rebirth initiation, the middle world where we live this life experience. We have her stories here in the middle world, and the celestial world, which is a place, initiation that's beyond the middle world, but it's where inspired vision, freedom, and the bigger picture can happen. So as a middle world guide, she's connecting us with the in-between, as we were just talking about, or the liminal realm. And that literally is the place that's on both sides of any threshold or boundary, or, you know, between the worlds place. And there can be lots of between the worlds places. One of them can be like when the sun is setting. So we're between the day and the night, or when the sun is getting ready to rise, we're between the night and the day. So that's another way of looking at that. Between the living and the dead, between being stuck and transformed, between self and other or others. So that relational piece that comes in. So she really helps to remind us that any relationship we experience is a liminal co-creation between two or more people. And that our relationships are, whatever relationship we have with someone else or others, really has its own energetic entity. So I remember when I got married the first time, one of the things we did was we lit candles. And so we each had our own candle, and then we took our 2 candles and lit a 3rd candle to represent the relationship. That was more than the 2 of each of us individually. It was the 2 of us. So it's that idea that when we enter into relationship with whatever it is, there's a 3rd entity. There's something else that's created. And so, it's connected. It's separate, but it's also connected. And that healthy relationships was something that the ancients referred to as true love, meaning that it would lead to soul growth and evolution. It wouldn't always be easy, but it would definitely, if it was in a place of true love, it would lead to that. And sometimes that can be some of the most challenging experiences we can have, but it leads to soul growth and evolution. It doesn't mean the relationship's going to last either, but that the love was there to create that possibility. So in that sense, then Hekate is a divine relationship counselor, a mediator. She helps people. She comes to us between the realms, between people, between experiences, between us and nature, between challenges that lead to gifts and opportunities. So she is that guide, that support for that relational experience. And she can also be a guide, and we can call on her to help us in mending damaged relationships or enhancing relationships that we want to see grow, or to come to terms with relationships that have ended. So she's definitely got the relational piece, and she's the dark goddess. So she's got the Scorpio piece as well.
Awesome. One of the things that came to me as you were saying that, Cayelin, is just when you're speaking to her way of helping us relate to the 3 worlds, is just to honor that we live at a moment right now where we've really just seen the activation of those 3 worlds really powerfully and potently, or we're in that crossroads because of all the activations of Chiron early this week, which we are still reverberating. Chiron was deeply activated, and then with Saturn yesterday, and then Neptune and Jupiter. Those are Saturn's middle world, Chiron is underworld, and Jupiter, Neptune is very celestial. So we are really right in the crosshairs of that. So just to speak to the moment we're in, that there's we're doing a lot of work under the surface, just to honor that. So thank you for the Hekate support. Okay. So now when we're considering Libra as the relational goddess, part of what we've been considering as those of us who have been working with Venus as morning star in the first phase of the cycle, it's been all about dismantling the ways that Libra has expressed, the Libra feminine has been expressed or has been suppressed or exploited through the time of for lack of a better word, for patriarchy. So, and some of that has been that she has been, you know, those of us who are more relational, the relational dimension of life, of human experience, has been diminished in this last several thousand years. And so part of what we've been looking at and asking is, what is the new expression of the Libra feminine in relationship that feels empowered, that's not codependent, that's not the vulnerable goddess who's being continually exploited, because that's how it's looked historically often. And so in doing this, we discovered Parvati as just a powerful, beautiful expression of the new relational feminine, or the most empowered Libra relational feminine, and also with some of that Scorpio dynamic at play. And Parvati is a goddess of relatedness. When you tune into Parvati, you tune into your own longing for sacred partnership. And that's Sally Kempton from her amazing book. Oh gosh, what is it, Cayelin? It's Shakti.
Yeah, something about Shakti.
We're gonna come to her later too. I cannot recall for some reason.
Right.
In any case, so in this story, which is there's a much longer version, we'll explore this in our deeper class, but she awakens the great god Shiva from a deep meditative state where he's doing the ultimate spiritual bypass. You know, he's this potent god that is needed to help keep and maintain the full balance in the relationship, but he's checked out. So she is the one who awakens him, which is interesting in this timing because we have Mars currently in an Aquarius cycle. And so there's some resonance there of the masculine kind of being asleep at the wheel. So their love story begins as Parvati she is this maiden, and she's absolutely smitten with Shiva. She's like, all she can do is just gaze at him in love and adoration. And he's still in his own checked out world. And so she's like that codependent Libra relational feminine who doesn't know her own personal power. She's giving all her power to the other. That's kind of how it's looked historically. And, you know, it hasn't worked out so well. So she consecrates. What happens in this story, in a much deeper telling, is that she consecrates the sacred marriage within herself when she steps into her full power. And how she does that is she dedicates herself to this profound spiritual practice, and she cultivates her own stillness, her self-discipline. She is deeply cultivating her own capacity. And she does all of this really from the force of love and desire. So she demonstrates the new Libra goddess, which is capable of the deepest states of intimacy with her beloved, as well as dedication to fully cultivating herself as a sovereign being. Because she does actually awaken him with the force of her own dedication to her own spiritual quest, as well as the powerful force of her desire, her will, and her love.
Isn't that what we want? It's like, what
right?
a great way to have that, a different way of telling that story, right? It's like, maybe we've started out with codependent relationships, and we can, and it, you know, it's that, we could say template or model for how we can evolve and grow into where we're sovereign within ourselves, and then cultivating relationship that is more supportive and creates that expression of growth that can come when we're in a good relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So what we didn't necessarily mean to use two goddesses from the India tellings, right? But Lakshmi is a relational goddess also, and she is considered a love goddess, a goddess of beauty and love, and kind of, we could imagine her as an evening star expression. And also the Sally Kempton talks about Lakshmi in her book on the goddesses, Shakti goddesses. And this quote from Sri Aurobindo just is so powerful. So I want to share it with everybody. And if you just want to take a moment to tune in, because I feel like this is something we really want to invoke in this evening star time as we're going forward over the next 260 days, or however many days we're going to have Venus in the evening sky. So Lakshmi throws the spell of the intoxicating sweetness of the divine. To be close to her is a profound happiness, and to feel her within the heart is to make existence a rapture and marvel. Grace and charm and tenderness flow from her like a light from the sun, And where she fixes her wonderful gaze or lets fall the loveliness of her smile, the soul is seized and made captive and plunged into the depths of unfathomable bliss. Yes. And this literally is an image of a Lakshmi statue I got last year that I love so much. She's like almost 2 feet tall, and she's just amazing. So I had to share her. I love her so much.
Briefly, Cayelin, can I just say something really briefly to that?
Mm-hmm.
Just to say quickly that for those, that it's important also to understand that Libra in the morning sky, Venus in the morning sky can be seen as more of the solar goddess, or the really fiery expression of the feminine. But when she's gone through her initiation and she appears in the evening sky, it's understood that she's more of the love goddess. So, and because she's also in the sign of Libra, traditionally the Libra Venus has been seen also as the love goddess. So that's also part of what we're invoking now in the evening star phase.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. And I just want to say that some years ago when my kids were little, we got a dog from the pound. We rescued a dog, and I told them they could name her as long as they didn't. She was like this collie golden retriever mix, and so as long as it wasn't like Ginger or something like that. And they couldn't come up with a name, so I named her Lakshmi. And she was just this great fun dog. And it was like I read somewhere around that time is that a person is said to be becoming wealthy when Lakshmi comes to live with you. So I was like, cool. Anyway, so I've had this thing with Lakshmi for quite a long time. So Shri Mahalakshmi, and that's how she's often referred to. Shri meaning auspicious, Maha meaning great. And so when there's mantras to her, you'll often hear Shri Mahalakshmi or Shreem, or there's different ways that it's said, but that kind of gives you a sense of what that means. And she really is a goddess of radiant light, of love, of kindness, of physical health and well-being, because if we're going to think of wealth, having good health is a very big part of being wealthy. Like if you don't have health, you could have all the money in the world and it's not going to be a good life. It's not going to feel good. She's got beauty, both inner and outer. She's also about sustainable good fortune and wealth, and nurturing all life. And so it's not the kind of way that we experience people who go for wealth, oftentimes in a more greedy way at the expense of others and of the earth. This is something that's sustainable, that's wise. You know, that evening star expression of the goddess who is also wise, who is who's fully initiated, has been through that process of death and rebirth. When she rises up into the evening sky, she has a lot of wisdom that she brings with her. So Lakshmi is said to bring luck to those who live these qualities and are therefore worthy of her blessings. So those who pray to Lakshmi for material success only, and they're lazy, they're greedy, they're selfish and mean, they're only desiring her wealth, she does not bestow her blessings upon them. So Awakening Shakti, that's the book. That's by Sally Kempton, Awakening Shakti. She said, what Lakshmi gives is always herself. So, so now to just tell her story about why she's a relational goddess, because, she is connected to Vishnu, and Vishnu is there's like a triune of gods. Not Shakti. Shiva is the destroyer, Vishnu is the maintainer, and Brahma is the creator. So there's like a triumvirate of the gods. And so Vishnu is the one who maintains or preserves life. And when Lakshmi comes into the world, she sees that the Devas and the Asuras particularly want to claim her for the wealth that she could provide them. But she doesn't want to be claimed for that. She wants to be understood. She wants to be loved for who she is, and not what somebody sees that they could possess her for, in terms of what she could bring in terms of material wealth. So when she sees Sri Hari Vishnu, that she sees right away he doesn't want to control her. He sees her for who she is, and he really just wants to love her for who she is. And I really feel like that's probably what any of us want, is just to be loved for who we are. So then Lakshmi, when she sees this, she places a garland around his neck, and you can see her here in this image preparing to put the garland around his neck, and welcomes him. And so Vishnu then embraces her and recognizes her as his wife. And I love this part of the story. This is very much a shortened version of the story, but flowers rain from the sky and the hearts of everyone bloomed. So this is the kind of relationships we want to see happening in our world at this time, because boy, do we need it. Yeah.
That's beautiful. What I love about that is when you first showed this to me, Cayelin, and when you first shared it, the thing that I felt so much with it is that what's happened to the feminine often has been, and that includes the earth, as well as many of us having this experience, as well as men who carry a lot of feminine medicine, is that we have so much to give. We have this richness, and it can be extracted from us if the relationship is like that one of using, and that's become so common, that kind of predatory kind of way of relating. And we've all done it also. It's, we've all been in that kind of relationship where we're trying to see what we can get instead of really like being in that place of sacred reciprocity. And so that's just so beautiful. The story is so beautiful in modeling that. And what can happen, the beauty that can happen when that's the dynamic.
Right, so that equal exchange, so that it's like the valuing of each person and the gifts they bring as equal and important, not one being more important or less important than the other. And that is so much what Libra desires. Deeply
Absolutely.
desires. Yeah.
So we also wanted to look at kind of modern day expressions of those who carry Libra medicine. And Louise Hay, I just came upon, well, we've worked with her in the past too, and we just love her. But she's a beautiful example where she is the relational sorceress. She had the Sun, Venus, and Mercury all in Libra, and she had her moon in Scorpio. So she really embodies, in terms of the chart and the astrology, these mysteries. So, and I want to give this example of her life, because to me, her life also kind of shows what's happened to those women and also men in our culture historically often, far too often, who have been most deeply dedicated to partnership, to connectedness, to the bond, that there's often been a violation there of that. So she was abused and violated as a child, as was her mother. She was betrayed in marriage as a young woman. But then what she did, which is what we're all learning to do collectively in healing the Libra goddess archetype, is that she cultivated profound empowerment as the relational sorceress through her middle and later years. She really, she's done so much in the world to help others and help women specifically, but also men, to come into right relationship with themselves and with the world around them, and to do that in a very empowered way. And in her book, I just love this, her book, Life, Reflections of the Journey, it's a manifesto, as I was reading it, for the Libra goddess in each of us, healing patterns of codependency and stepping into love and empowerment. And so I'm not going to read the whole thing. You can read it on the PowerPoint, because I want to make sure we can keep moving in the flow. But she really basically is sharing how we can choose to eliminate negative, destructive, fearful ideas and thoughts that would keep us from being the magnificent, wow.
Someone must be annotating.
Yeah, somebody's really emphasizing that. So the more that I fulfill myself, the more people love me. I join the ranks for women, healing other women. I'm a blessing to the planet. So there's many ways here where in this quote, she's really speaking into being the empowered Libra goddess, who's not just here to give her power to some source outside of herself, but who is here to really claim fully her own self and her own authority and her sovereignty. I am a blessing to the planet. My future is bright and beautiful, and so it is.
Yes. So. Love that. And she did, she died in August 30th of 2017, and she was 91 when she passed. So she definitely had a long, full life.
She did. Full of love, full of connection. And I think too, when I think of her, it wasn't, she was in a dynamic and a caring relationship with It feels like with so many people in her personal life, as well as everyone she served through all of the work that she did, she had this way of connecting from the heart, which is what Libra does, and creating a culture of peace around her. So, what a cool quote. Everything in your life, every experience, every relationship is a mirror of the mental pattern that is going on inside of you. And that's radical self-responsibility too. She definitely lived that in every way.
Absolutely.
And so also to speak to, I like to, it's always so powerful to see that the relational feminine shows up in both men and women. And Jimmy Carter is a beautiful example of this, where his ascendant and his sun are both in Libra. And so even in the beginning, in his early years during the civil rights movement, he was one of the only white political figures to really refuse to participate in the segregational movement. And he drew a tremendous amount of criticism for that. And then as president of the United States, he modeled the relational principle of earth care. He promoted the most progressive policies around renewable energies, putting solar panels on the White House. He had many, many other aspects of his plan that if he would have been successful, we would have been in a very different position today. And then after his presidency, he's acted as a diplomat and peacemaker. He's really a profound bridge between fundamentalist religion and progressive Christianity, seeking justice and peace for the people of Palestine, working tirelessly to foster conditions of abundance and well-being for all people across the globe. He's really, really embodies the diplomacy, the peacemaking dimension of the Libra archetype. And he's also sustained a 73-year marriage with his wife, Rosalind. And they're really kind of partners in crime in the work that they do. So just really wanted to kind of honor this Libra energy that can express so powerfully and potently in the masculine as well. Really,
he didn't probably, whatever your politics are, whatever that was about, but I feel like what he is done even after leaving the presidency has been so remarkable. Like he just definitely comes from his heart.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you think about, I think I was trying to choose different people to express this in the world, this real peace-bringing energy. And it's actually pretty hard to find right now, to be honest. And so when I landed on him, I was like, yeah, this is helpful.
I love it. We need examples of the sacred masculine who are doing that. And I love this quote that won't learn to live together in peace by killing each other's children.
Yeah.
Truer words probably have not been spoken.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then finally, Jigonhsasee, Mother of Nations. When I first started to learn about her, I was so deeply, deeply inspired. She's an very important historic figure in the oral histories of the Iroquois or the Haudenosaunee people, embodying the fully realized Libra goddess as peacemaker and diplomat. And about 900 years ago is, according to many sources, is about when the Iroquois Confederacy would have been established. So that's when she would have been a figure in the world. And so at the time of her life and of the founding of this Iroquois Confederacy, it was a time of violence and imbalance, much like our own age. And according to some stories, the times had gotten so dark that people were even like cannibals and murdering each other. It was a dark, dark age. But she was an individual who lived at the crossroads, much like Hekate, right? And her home was a neutral zone. So the warriors from any of those tribes could come and they could share food, they could break bread, they could connect in a space where there was no division. And so it was a safe ground for peaceful relations. And she resolved disputes, she selected leaders, and she was seen as the first clan mother. And down the line after her would continue all the mothers, the clan mothers for the Iroquois Confederacy, who happened to be at the top of their decision-making process. So she was co-founder with the great peacemaker in Hiawatha of the Haudenosaunee Iroquois Confederacy and the great law of peace. And to me, it feels like she can come alive in all of us. We can really remember and see her as a figure, and also all the relational goddesses throughout time, all the places where she's been expressed. And she can ask, how can we create a space of neutrality where the warring nations within us can find peaceful ground and resolution? And then how can we extend this peaceful ground beyond ourselves, creating an environment of inclusivity and care for the battle-weary warriors among us to find rest and peace? And those warriors might be activists, you know, on the front lines, fighting pipelines, or they might be, you know, someone in our community who's been a school teacher in our public school system, or a doctor or a nurse. But how can we create a peaceful ground for those among us who need that?
Yeah, you know, and since this Libra goddess, meta goddess, is the meta goddess for the U.S. chart, and even though this happened long before, but the founding fathers did go to the Iroquois Confederacy and say, can we model our constitution after your constitution? And of course they said yes, but that they must include the circle of grandmothers as the final say, and or there would be trouble if they didn't. Eventually it would just deteriorate into not a good thing, which is what they left out, and which is why we're having challenges now. So we can, part of what we can invoke and bring forth and really call within ourselves, because of course it starts from the inside out, if we have that peaceful energy within us, if we are cultivating that and creating ways of being in greater collaboration and co-creation with those around us, that then we are being that in the world, and that ripples out. It has an effect. And if there are enough of us, it will literally completely change how things are done. So our showing up and being willing to be the peacemakers, to be the ones who are looking at how we can create more peaceful relationships within ourselves, with each other, that's the gift. And I just love how she reminds us of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she did it. Like, it's not impossible. And she did it in a time that was really difficult, mm-hmm. like we're facing now. So yeah, so it can be done. So, so part of what we're imagining is Venus rising into the evening sky. As the Libra meta goddess, she's rising into inner peace. And as that relates to the inner self. So first we cultivate that peace within us, and then that is what extends from us. So like whatever we are vibrating with is what is going out into the world from us. So finding peace within, of course, is essential before we can really experience it without. And if we're not feeling that we have peace in our life, then we need to look within ourselves for the reasons why that is. So that mirroring idea, how we mirror, how the world is mirroring back to us and our opportunities to see that, and then to perhaps make more conscious choices and practice being more peaceful within, practice, you know, whatever it is that we need to do to transform, transmute, and transform that energy. Because our natural state really is peace. We've just forgotten. And so this is a great opportunity. The next 9 months of Venus in the evening sky is our opportunity to remember this piece and to cultivate that and to bring that forth more fully.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Oh,
Did
sorry,
you want to say something, Tami?
Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So peace occurs when we have healthy self-love. When we have healthy self-love, we can then have a healthy way of loving others, because we're not trying to get something outside of ourselves from someone else. We literally, it's kind of like the idea of that sovereign expression that Parvati finally got to within herself, that once she had that, then she was able to create a healthy relationship with a beloved other. So this is part of the journey for us, and that peace is always present in us. It's just that, and in nature and what in life, so to speak. But we just have to remember. That's the task that's kind of before us. And how do we remember that? And if we're not feeling peaceful, then what's that about? And doing that deeper exploration with that, and having a community of people to do that with is so awesome. Right? Sometimes we just need somebody to talk to and get a reflection back. So helpful. So connecting with peace is about doing that deeper listening within trusting our inner knowing, accessing our inner silence. That's within everybody. It's really at the heart of who we are. And it really has to do with our true nature. So Jimi Hendrix really spoke to this beautifully. I've heard this quote for many years. I just love it. I just love it. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. So bringing the love and the peace together through love, we'll have peace. And when we have peace, we'll also have love. And it's not it's the power of love, not the love of power. So cool.
Awesome. So cool.
So, and I happened to run across this as I was looking into this. I used to think I was introverted because I really like being alone, but it turns out that I just like being at peace. And I'm very extroverted around people who bring me peace. And I really relate to this because I do tend to like to be alone. Like if things are really chaotic and people are going through their stuff, and especially if any of it's directed at me, I'm just like, I would prefer to be by myself in that case. But when I'm in a community situation where everybody is really enjoying each other, celebrating each other, supporting one another, I love that. And I'm sure most of you can relate to that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is so interesting to think about when you talk about peace, and that really is a big theme over the next 8 months when Venus is evening star in the sign of Libra. To consider too that peace is not a passive thing, it's an active principle. So it's something that we are going to be speaking into and living into and cultivating collectively in the Venus cycle in our class. So Cayelin, do you want to speak to the Libra journey?
Well, so basically, I mean, many of you on this here already know this. These are the things that we provide when you join us for the journey. And of course, everyone can do this on their own. So just to say, now that you know about this journey, pay attention to the Venus Moon conjunctions, work with the chakra gates. You can do it on your own if you want to join us. We do these monthly classes. We have videos on each of the chakra gates. We have lots of guided meditations and invocations. We provide handouts and star maps and all kinds of things about what is happening specifically with each gate. Pretty profound, and it's just been amazing. Plus, suggested deepening practices or home play. You can have a buddy, kind of fun.
A lot of people are already signing up who say, I want a buddy, give me a buddy.
Right. Yeah, we have a private Facebook page where people post all kinds of amazing things. They ask for support, they give us insights. It's an incredible experience to watch how people come together with the Facebook page. There's also a bonus video describing the whole entire Venus cycle, how it works, how the morning star cycle works, the underworld part of the journey, the evening star. So you have a very good background for that and how it relates to the Inanna story. Plus lots of bonus meditations for each gate. And then we have another bonus package of audios looking at the Venus cycle and being able, so people can then also help determine whether they're morning star, evening star, where they are in the journey. It's not as good as the one that's in the Venus Signature series, but it's helpful. So, yeah.
And we'll talk about that in a minute. But just to say that, basically, yes, you can do this on your own. And the reality is that when you do it with us, we give so much support, and we've also got this phenomenal community. So we're doing this collectively, and there is a tremendous amount of power in that. So when we talk about the Facebook group, for example, that's people, everybody's out there when Venus is with this, the first moon gate, the first, root chakra gate, so we're all out there, we're observing it. We're just kind of building the energy of connection to the earth, to Venus, to these deeper mysteries. So it's very powerful, and we've done everything that we can to share with you the practices that have helped us come most alive with these mysteries in a way that is absolutely life-changing. so that your life begins to be aligned with these cycles in a way that just is really indescribable.
It really is. And I just want to say, this was from an event that Tami and I did back in 2015, a Venus altar that we created. This is a personal Venus altar I created probably in 2014.
Yeah, we create altars.
One of the things we encourage people to do is to have a Venus altar and work with that altar as we go through the gates.
Yes, and so, yeah, so, and if, as we're talking about the working with Lakshmi, or we're always looking at different goddesses we can connect with specifically to invoke or to work consciously with over the course of our time. So you might, for example, if you choose Lakshmi, you might have her on your altar and work consciously with her over the course of this time.
Right. This is Tara. We've got Sekhmet. There's some other goddesses that you can't see as well, but yeah. So there's lots of different ways you can do. There's no one way. There's no right way to do it, but it's a fun practice.
And yeah, and so I can speak really briefly to this. And just to say that at the very end, for those of you who are, because I think most of you are sticking around, which is awesome, that we will do a short Q&A at the very end, but we wanted to make sure that you know about these offerings that we have as well, if you don't know already. Because the second thing that we're just really excited about that we're releasing for the first time is it's 2 classes we've created that are very powerful. We've put them together. And in the Venus Signature Series, I'm not going to actually go through, you can look at this later and go through every single part of it. But basically, it's asking the question, how does Venus show up in the personal chart? So whether it's for you personally, or if you're working with clients, basically there is, the classes, it's so intensive, it's so amazing. We'll talk about the Venus phases, which include Venus morning star, evening star, the 2 underworld phases. We'll also do the inner phases, which include chakra gates. And then the next classes will be about the meta goddess and what meta goddess is your meta goddess and how do we work with that. And then the next classes will be your Venus signature with the moon, the sun, and the ascendant. How do those things work together? How can you work with them powerfully to activate the inner goddess blueprint in yourself? And then the Venus alchemy synthesis, how do you bring all of it together? And we've got some really potent tools to help you bring it all together in. So again, it's about igniting that goddess within in her fullness. And we have all kinds of deepening practices, handouts, worksheets, all of those things, in-depth video interviews, and then also this incredible bonus Venus document. Cayelin, if you want to talk about it, because Cayelin put a ton of hours into this.
Yeah, so basically it is all the Venus cycles from 1929 to 2052, so you can find yourself where you are, and you looked at the date before your birthday, the year and the month and the day before your birthday when there was a Venus gate or a Venus, stationary retrograde or whatever it was, and you can figure out where you are in the story. And you can do that for anybody. It's pretty profound. And yeah, it took me
amazing. It's amazing
to put all that together.
Yeah, but you can look up anybody.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then the other thing that we're doing with this is we're going to do 4 live Q&A over the next at the cross quarter times. So the people that have done both classes will be included in that, but the people that have only done one or haven't done any of them, they can have a live component that we'll be offering with that. That's pretty cool. So
yeah,
it's pretty profound. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
So just so you know, if you want to look at things more deeply, if you go to venusalchemy.com, you come to our main page and you can click on the drop-down menu. You can go to look at the Libra Evening Star Ascent Journey or the Comprehensive Venus Alchemy Signature Series. Click on that. It'll take you to the page where there's more information. Or if you're interested in the Libra journey, you can just click here on our current online journey. That'll take you right to it. And also our newsletter. This basically is signing up for a newsletter. So
yeah, so most of you are probably already on there, but if not.
Exactly. So I think that's it.
Yep, I think that's it too. So do we want to open it up for Q&A? Wow, how fun, how cool. So, okay, the way this is going to work, I'm going to just, first of all, just open the chat and just see what people have been saying in the chat because we didn't want to quite go there yet, but I am going to also, I'm going to make it so that people can unmute themselves. If that's, I'm gonna do this.
Okay, so it feels.
Okay, so I'm now allowing people to unmute themselves. It might be a little crazy because we've got 52 people, but before people unmute themselves, I'm going to go ahead and read the little chats. Okay, so Kathleen said, see the great law of peace, new world roots of American democracy with David Yarrow. That's great, cool. And then Rebecca says, beautiful saving link. Okay, there we go with chat. So who has maybe questions or anything that they want to speak into, want to share about your own experience working with the Venus cycle, whatever it is. We're going to take, the next 10 minutes, maybe a little more, to take Q&A questions. And you do *6. Well, if you're on the phone, you can do *6, but if you're on your computer, it's pretty easy to just unmute.
Yeah.
And we have actually also Olivia Shanti saying, hello, I'm currently studying at the Shamanic Astrology with Daniel, and I'm wondering if I could also join without getting too much information. If you could join, is that meaning, Olivia, do you mean join as in our newsletter or take our class? I'm not sure if I understand. And thank you so much for the presentation. Take the class. That's a really good question, getting too much information, because what I've found is that people can, I sometimes will say, don't worry about getting behind if you think it's too much. Just, for example, go to the classes every month. That will energize you and get you excited about what's going on. You might just do that. That might be it. It's an hour a month. And you're going to get a lot out of it. What? Hour and a half. Yeah.
Hour and a half. Yeah.
That's right. And then the next thing is that you may decide you want to do Cayelin's guided meditation. That's really powerful too. And that's like
15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, so just doing those two things.
And that's not information, that's a meditation. That's like a guided journey. Yeah.
Right. There are many other things you can do. You can do the deepening practices and all of that. You don't have to do any of it. So it's really kind of up to you. Does that help, Olivia? Okay, great.
Yeah, and really, we do our best to give information that will be useful and supportive, yes, and also interactive exercises for people when we're doing this. So, and if it's new language to you, it can feel like too much information initially. And then, but as you get familiar with it, it gets easier. So
yeah, it does. It really, there's just a little learning curve, especially learning exactly how the cycle works. But once you get it, it's just in your bones. Okay, and then, so so Mary advised you to take the course. Awesome. I hope you do. It'll be fun. So, okay, Pamela, being a new person to this, when I take this class, will I be able to integrate practice into my life so I may deepen? Yes, absolutely. We have so much that we offer in the way of that, including for example, again, having an altar that you can use, deepening exercises we give you every month. Venus journal. There are many different.
Lots of practices that you can pick and choose from, the ones that work for you.
Yeah.
And maybe some of the people that have been in the class will want to jump on and share a little bit about how it's been for them. Emma, yes.
Yes.
I just want to say that I don't know where I would be today if it had not been for your wonderful classes. I started with the very first one with Venus and the Capricorn Meta Goddess. And I thought I had learned so much in that class. And then the next energy started to come in, the next archetype or the next overtone. And I saw there was a whole new level of myself and of Venus and all of those people around us. And so there's a whole group of us who became Venus star junkies. and we can't wait. Now mine is coming up, my overtone is coming up in the next cycle. So I had to wait all the way through. But
wow,
everything that I've gone through, this has helped me, and I've gone through a lot in this last few years. So, and you're never alone. If you have your Venus buddy, then if you can find a very special person. If you have a Venus buddy and it's not quite, you don't quite jive, you just say, hey, let's find somebody else. It's okay. So, and what I loved about it the most is that there's no commitments, no responsibility. You walk as fast as you want. If you want to run, fine. If you trip, somebody will pick you up.
Oh, beautifully said.
Thank you, Emma.
Yeah. In fact, Emma was one of the ones when we first did it, because we didn't know we were going to continue. We just thought, we knew we were going to do the first one. We didn't know we were going to continue. And there were so many people in our first class that said, you're going to do the rest of them, right? Emma was one of those people.
Yeah.
We need to do the rest of these. So yeah, we were encouraged, strongly encouraged.
Thank you, Emma. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we feel the same way every time. We're just like, what happens next? It's so exciting when the new energy comes through, and what's it going to be like? We're in constant wonderment. It's mystery, and that's why it keeps pulling us, because it keeps getting deeper and richer, and it's always a new dynamic we get to engage together.
So somebody's asking.
You're muted, Emma. Oh, somebody's asking. Okay, yeah, there's some chat.
What I wanted to say is about the work that you and Tami, you and Cayelin have put into this. You've gone beyond anything that I would expect from a normal human being. So you're very special. And there's always something, you think you know it all, and you don't. And we find out about it here.
Yeah.
So do we.
Thanks, Emma. Yeah, we do too. Right. Thank you, Emma.
That's fun. Yeah.
And the quality of woman and man that is attracted to this work is phenomenal. You will find really brilliant and caring and magical, and so many incredible artists. Okay, so some questions I wanted. So K.S. Ananda says, yes, in the bones, so grateful how you honor that depth. Thank you. Andrea, how does Venus in the evening star affect your Venus placement in the natal chart? For instance, I have Venus as ruler of Sun, Taurus, and I am a Libra ascendant. So, Cayelin, you want to speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So it depends on, if you have an evening star Venus, then it's probably more personal to you, even if you're not in a Venus return, because we could say Venus comes back to the same place in relationship to the Sun it was in every cycle, and there can be an activation of that. Not knowing what yours is, we can't really speak to that, but as a Libra ascendant, what I can speak to, and what Tami and I would share with you, is that this will help you understand the Libra mysteries and how you're expressing them, and to look and maybe even experience where you have blocks, where you are already doing amazing work with your Libra mysteries, get support with that, get a deeper understanding, that kind of thing. So I hope that answers that, and maybe Tami has something to add to that.
Oh, just, I think just simply that we recommend this course for anyone who really wants to deepen ceremony in their lives. If you love to work with the cycles of the moon, and you want to take it a level deeper, if you love the divine feminine, if you want to align your cycles with the night sky in a really potent way, we recommend it to you. We also recommend it to you if you're in your Venus return, especially, you don't want to miss it. And also, Sylviane, if you could, I'm going to mute Sylviane.
Yeah, good idea.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Can you mute? I actually.
Oh, sorry. Well, I was going to say something, but.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm dog sitting. That's why I was late. And the dogs, cats, whatever. They want to go out. They want to come in. It's specifically in response to Olivia, Shanti, and Pamela's questions. Whoever else might have that question. As someone who's been working with this for over 20 years and with clients, and I have done a lot of Venus work with clients specifically, especially women, and my own chart. That I tend to be a person, Gemini, Mars, Aries and Mercury and Aries. I like studying and I like information, but I don't have much earth in my chart. I'm always not so good at grounding it. And this has been the first Venus one that I have participated in, and it is my return. But it really has encouraged me to go out and be present, like, as you said, Tami, with the gates, you know, when Venus is at the gates, and just a ceremony. And I have an altar, and I live in a van, so I have to set up the altar and then take it down every time I like go to town or something and put it back up again. So it's really a discipline, and I live there with my little Sekhmet and her Venus altar, and I love it. I mean, the difference between when I get too lazy to put it up and when it's there, it's huge to me now. So I would really encourage anybody, especially people like me who, you know, you can study and study and study, and I love that. But this has been such a wonderful practice in grounding, and the reminder that when we do work collectively, which is especially appropriate to the Libra archetype, and this, which is a challenge to me because, you know, when I was born, the overtone was Scorpio, and this is the first time for a long time on the world stage and also personally, and I can feel that shift, you know, dragging and kicking and screaming all my Aries into Libra, but really, really profound. So I can't encourage people enough to participate in it if they feel called. That's it.
Thank you so much, Sylvia.
Thank you, Sylviane,
And
so much.
it looks like Kent wants to say something.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to say one thing that's very powerful about this class is that working with the goddesses, you'll find that the goddesses, it invokes them, and they really come forth, and it can be very amazing. The underworld goddess that really sort of popped back into my life was White Buffalo Calf Woman. And I'm from South Dakota, and so she's just kind of part of the land. And she's a very, I would say she's a fierce goddess in the sense that she's kind of like, you know, maybe Kali, or, you know, she's somebody that you really have to give respect to. And she turned in the story, she turned the hunter that was disrespectful to a pile of ash. So, but it's really amazing how these things can kind of just show up. And these goddesses, whether you think it's archetypal energy or however you want to picture it, they're real, and they really will interact with you. And so if you have the altar and you just kind of want to experience that powerful energy that's part of, you know, Inanna and Venus, these other goddesses, bringing them in, or just finding out who shows up, can be an amazing experience and help you in your own transformation. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Kent. And I just want to say that in a version of the story I read about White Buffalo Calf Woman, and the one that was disrespectful, she says she gave him an entire lifetime of experience and disintegrated into ash. So it wasn't just like, I'm taking you out because you're whatever. But and I like that version of the story. So I don't know how true it is or not. But anyway, I just wanted to share that too.
Yeah, I like that. I had not heard that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Sarah.
Yeah. Oh, Sarah, go on. Do you need for us to unmute you? Can you unmute yourself?
Not able to. Yes.
Oh, there you go. Good. Yay. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's really good to see you too. And no, I don't know that words can adequately express what I've gotten from these classes. But one thing that really was powerful was to reflect back on my life and be able to integrate everything in a much deeper way. It's so worthwhile to do this, and I really appreciate you both so much, and everyone that I've met through the classes. So thank you.
Thank you,
Sarah.
Aww.
So wonderful to have you in these courses, and that you sign up for the new one too. So good to have you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So I'm going to read the latest chats too, just because. So the last one was, I'm curious, this is Pamela. I'm curious if Mother Mary is within this Venus work as divine feminine. And I think that's a really interesting question because, of course, Mother Mary and the mother goddess archetype as a something we can connect deeply with. It speaks to the way that there's only going to be 5 archetypes of the goddess that are going to be expressed on the world stage as a meta goddess in any given time, because Venus will rise as morning star 5 times over the course of 8 years, and it's going to be 5 different signs in the zodiac that
Created 5-pointed star.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Right. So the reality for us is that right now Cancer would be that archetype most likely, don't you think, Cayelin?
Yeah.
If we're going to get really specific about it. The mother archetype, Mother Mary, would be Cancer. However, what I keep feeling and what we may perceive is that kind of like what we talked about with Libra and Scorpio today, you could say that the medicine of the sign that comes before is also already in some way the foundation or the basis for the new sign. So the next cycle we're going to go through is Gemini. And before the Gemini meta goddess, it was Cancer. It shifted. I forget what year it was that it shifted.
1948, I think.
40. It's been a while. So that's the one that's going to shift next. And it's a little bit of a, it's a stretch, but I've been feeling that actually, the Cancer aspect. And for myself, I have the Cancer job and the Gemini tribe for my moon. So those 2 energies are deeply entwined. But to say, I think too, because Mother Mary and her archetype is so fundamental to the feminine divine, I might almost even ask the question, if this is who you work so deeply with, and I think it would be a question for all of us, is to say, well, in what way does the Libra goddess, in what unique way does she carry the medicine of Mother Mary? In what way does the Scorpio goddess carry the medicine of Mother Mary? So there's a vibrational addition, in a sense, you could say, because there's no way she couldn't come through in this. And the stories about Durga that we use for the Aries Venus cycle, it was really this great mother goddess. That's her first original kind of form before she emerged as this great warrior goddess, bringing the world back into balance. I don't know. So that's what comes to me. Cayelin, what do you think?
I agree with you about that. And so it just depends on, doing your research. Of course, Mother Mary was married, right? And so she had her own relational pieces as well. So it would be interesting to see, and maybe that would be something that you would want to look at and maybe bring to the class if you join us, because we'd be interested in that. Absolutely.
It feels like a really important question. So thank you for asking that, Pamela. And then Zoe, I'm not sure if it's Zoe. Do you know Zoe? Okay, Zoe. So she says, thank you for your important work. I have been engaged with this Venus cycle in a very embodied way. And even though it's been in solitude, it's been profoundly meaningful. And little thank yous and hearts. Cool. Awesome. So good to hear that, Zoe.
So I think, is there anybody who wants to say anything? You could raise your hand or unmute yourself real quick. Otherwise, we're going to do a little activation closing prayer.
We'll just do a little closing prayer, just a really brief little invocation. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone. And we kept this to close to an hour.
I know. We're good for us.
It's kind of amazing for us. Okay, so let's just go ahead and once again put our hands on our hearts and just take a couple of deep breaths. Allowing these breaths to soften our stance. Feeling the weight of our bodies on our chairs, the weight of our feet on the floor. Feeling the support of the mother, the great mother, who really is always present in any of the conversations about the feminine divine. She's always deeply present. And we now give gratitude for, we might begin to sense and feel actually this little flame inside of our hearts. And it's that flame, it's being ignited. It's a flame of that principle and that active, alive presence of peace that lives within each heart. It is a force of life. And as you feel that grow inside of you, that flame, it's a nourishing flame. There's a nourishing flame that, as it begins to expand and fill your heart, the action that it initiates is to bring congruence, to bring coherence, to bring harmony to the different aspects within your being. So to take a moment and drop even deeper and sense into and feel and know that there may be vibrations or energetics within your heart center that feel out of balance, that feel in polarity, that feel in conflict, and to soften our awareness even more deeply so that that beautiful, nourishing flame can encompass those parts. And what that flame, what that peaceful presence within the heart, what it does is it creates a bigger field. It creates a sense of expansiveness. So that within that open field of our hearts, there's room, there's space for every dimension of our deepest being. There's room, there's space for our inner counsel. There's room, there's space for every aspect of our being that's essential to the truth of who we are. We might even begin to see it as if it is a table, a round table, and around that table are arrayed all the members of our inner council. And that divine light, that flame of peace, is the force that brings them together and that creates a conversation in a place where they can begin to come into harmonious resonance with each other. And as we feel that coming together of our inner council, we know that at any given moment, we can tune our ear to listen deeply to whichever voices are most needed in any given moment to provide us with the wisdom, with the insight, with the knowledge that is needed for any life decision. And we can also just hold in our heart the sense, the feeling sense of how it is to have this harmony, this inner congruence, this inner coherence. We just be with that experience now. You might feel it as a warmth, as a quiet joy, as a sense of hopefulness. And as we feel that the light of that inner congruence and inner peace expand, we feel how that sense flows down into every part of our body, that inner congruence and peace, and it expands through up into our, above our hearts, up into our necks, into our head, up into the upper part of our bodies, down our arms, down through our fingers, our torsos, down through our pelvis, through our legs, down to our very feet, feeling the flow, the expansion of our entire body and the field around our body with this flame, with this light of inner congruence of peace radiating outward. And just to take a moment to drop even deeper still into that sensation, quiet joy, of deep presence, and perhaps even just a sensation of celebration for being fully wholly in the truth of who we are. So as we complete this call today and this time that we've had together to share heart to heart and to open the way into this next 8 to 9 months of this Venus and Libra cycle, we give gratitude. And now you might take your hands and put them out and imagine that we are creating a circle together, all of us. You might even imagine that you're holding hands with someone on either side of you. We're creating a circle. You might put your feet firmly on the ground and imagine now that this light in your heart is extending into both of your hands, that light now is extending with permission to the other person. And so we're passing this light of congruence, of peace, the way that each of us holds it, which no one else will ever radiate it in this way. We're also putting our feet on the ground and sending that sensation of peace, of congruence down deep into the earth. We're expanding it up above. We might put our hands up and send that light, send that harmony up into the world, into all the worlds. And as we do, we give gratitude for the blessing of this beautiful fall equinox, of this beautiful Venus evening star rising, and of the opportunity to come together in peace and harmony and congruence, and opening the way for a time of peace and a time of harmony within, without. And so it is. Blessed be.
Blessed be. Woohoo!
Great. So have a beautiful, beautiful night. And so good to see all of you.
Thank you,
Cayelin,
everyone.
you want to say anything?
Just yay. Thank you, everyone, for showing up and helping us.
Yes. I'm going to unmute everybody so everybody can say goodbye.
Yeah.
Everybody who's left.
And just thank you for helping us to build this field, because everybody's presence there has already begun it in such an amazing way.
Thank you.
So
Yeah,
bye,
have a
everybody.
beautiful night. Bye.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you, ladies.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.